Hi, angels. In today's episode, I'm going to give you an example of how to do the inner work by something that has come up that has triggered a few things that have really triggered me, and the process that I use to help me through it. I want to share that with you to help guide you through it. When I shared this episode, I honestly didn't know what I was going to call it. I just knew I had a lot come up for me this week, that I was sitting in meditation this morning. It all come through and I went, I just need to share it with you guys. I don't know what I'm going to call it, but I know that it is going to help you. And as I've been spilling this episode out, it is all around how triggers are healing, but how triggers give you clarity, but also how the steps that I outlined, this is just how to do the inner work. I've done it on myself and I share it with others. So this episode is a really great example to teach you how to do some of the inner work and recognize what is coming up for you, is happening for you and not to you, angels. Let's dive in. You are gonna love it. It's very confronting. Hi, angels. I'm not sure what I'm going to call this podcast episode. All I know is I am going to just spill exactly how I've been feeling this morning, and I guess a little process that I've been through this morning and over the last week. And I just know that whoever needs to hear this message is going to take wisdom from it. It's going to help you, but I'm just going to spill it and just share with you exactly what has been going on. And I get an urge sometimes after something's happened, or I've been through something, or I've had a ritual, or I've noticed something in myself where I've helped myself maybe heal through something, grow through something, learn through something. I think to myself, I need to get on and share with you guys. So sometimes it can just, that burst of inspiration can come through so quickly. And if I don't jump on and share it immediately, it's like it just fleets, it goes, and then I'll try and recall it the next day. And I've just learned it just does not work. So here I am just jumping on, sharing with you from the heart, and just take out of it what you will. I actually started my just before the episode, I sprayed myself with Truth Teller, which is a Lotus Way flower essence that I get from my beautiful friend Kate Weston Kinesiology, which is all around fearless speech and authentic expression and conviction. So know that is what you're going to get today, and just have it land however it needs to land. And if I trigger you with a couple of things, maybe that's what you need, because I'm going to talk through a few things that have triggered me in particularly the last week, and what it's taught me and how it's helped me in my process of growth and evolution and learning, and clear some things to make space for what I want to invite in next. So I guess that's kind of the essence of what this episode is going to be around, and I'll figure out a title or how I'm going to share it with you guys so that you know what it's about. But it's all around, I guess, how triggering can be healing, how being triggered can bring you clarity, and what you can learn from the triggers about yourself, and how it can help you clear some things that you've maybe been sitting with, that have maybe been blocking with you, how you can work through them, how you can learn from them, or maybe it's just going to spark a little bit of inspiration in you to start being aware of your triggers and how they're showing up for you and what they are going to gift you with, as opposed to, I think we look at triggers, and I know I do, as a negative thing, or that something's wrong, but we can learn from the irritation, we can learn from the frustration, because sometimes the universe shows you like a mirror back to you how you've maybe been showing up, or what you need to maybe bring forth more into the world, as opposed to just, like, we need to sit in the frustration. Okay, we're humans, we need to feel the emotion, we need to sit in the frustration, we need to be angry, we need to feel these things, because our emotion is our guidance system. Okay, so just remember that your emotions, energy in motion, your emotions are your guidance system to help you on your path. So they're like a reminder of how you can align with your higher self, with your soul. They're kind of showing you when you're on track, when you're off track. I just want to help you surrender into them today, as opposed to looking at them as something that's negative, something that's happening to you. I want you to start thinking around, how is life happening for me as opposed to me? And at the moment, at the time of recording, we're going through, and this has all kind of been very divinely timed, if I'm honest. We were in the equinox, so we're in March, which is that equinox, kind of that spring. We're in autumn in Australia, that equinox period, where I'm no expert on this, but from what I've learned, it is around like the earth kind of tilts in a certain way, and it aligns differently, and it opens you up where the veil is more thinning, where when I say thinning, between like your reality and your soul, the veil can be a little bit thinner to, I guess, open you up to new beginnings, to clearings, to healings, because the equinox is also a time of, it's like this particular time in March, it's that time of like the astrology new year, not the calendar new year, the astrology new year. And at the moment, we've also had a new moon. There's been a lot of things. It feels like it's been amplified, and I feel like I've been really triggered by so many things, but I know that they're coming up for me to move forward, and the same for you in your own unique way. So I sat there this morning, we're kind of right on the start of it, and I was like, it just dawned on me. I was like, oh my goodness, this is all happening because I know I'm meant to be doing more. I know I'm meant to be leveling up, and this is happening to help me clear those things that I might have been clinging to, or those things that I might have been stuck in, or patterns that have been replaying, where I need to probably maybe lie them to bed, or maybe I need to see what the message is in them for me, or see how it's a mirror back to me and what is showing up for me, so that I can learn from it and move forward through it, so that I can step more into that version of me that is, I guess it's like that video game, right? Where you're leveling up. You learn, you plateau, you level up. And with growth, sometimes can come challenges, can come that feeling of discomfort, can come frustration or fear, or, and sometimes it can be really pleasurable as well. It can come in a really beautiful way where you're manifesting what you want. But to manifest what your heart and soul needs, what your heart and soul wants, you need to know exactly what that is. You need to get clarity around who you are and what you want. And is it coming from a place of your authentic soul expression, or is it because what other people expect from you, or because what you feel you need to achieve, and what maybe you think you want? Your soul knows best, and your soul has something better in store for you. So I'll go into that in a little bit more as well. And what I wrote down, I'm just going to read a little bit from my journal, what I kind of wrote down first thing this morning. So I started Saturday morning, I'm out in my beautiful little Zen zone on my deck. It's been raining, so it's kind of the first, beautiful sunrise that we've kind of had all week. And I've been at the studio so much more this week with Teachers Sit early morning. I've missed my sunrise. So I sat out there this morning just feeling so at peace, sipping my raw cacao, just taking in the silence. And I just felt this need to journal this morning. I don't journal every single day. I can go through periods where I journal like maybe for a week every day. Then I might not pick up my journal for another week or a couple of weeks. Maybe I might journal once a week. It's all different, right? I just feel into when I need to. But I had a feeling today I needed to journal. So I took my journal out there, sipping my raw cacao, and then I wrote down that with this equinox day, now it's about what you choose. Today I choose a way that matches what my soul, body, and energy knows already. And I got that line from a card that I read. So I want you to listen to that carefully. Today I choose a way that matches my soul, what my soul, my body, and my energy already knows. So we know these things in our heart and soul. especially if you hang around my podcast long enough, my studio long enough, my retreats, all the things that I offer. My goal is to help get you more connected with your soul, because when you get connected with your soul, and you can do that through movement, getting more and more connected with your wisdom in class, through yoga, etc. I'm drip feeding out little tools all along the way on how you can get more aligned and connected with your soul's knowing, okay? So what I wrote again, today I choose a way that matches, okay? That matches what my soul, body, and energy already knows. My wisdom, your wisdom already knows. But we get in our own way through other people's opinions, through expectations, through fears, through doubts, through trying to compare or compete, doing things to make other people happy. There's so many ways. Our subconscious limiting blocks and beliefs from the way we've been brought up, the way we've been conditioned, the people we hang around at work, and I could go on, right? There's so many things from external sources that take us out of alignment. And my vision for you is to help bring you back into alignment, to return home to yourself, to remember the essence of who you are. Because when you start showing up as who you are, things line up for you in a really magical way. And sometimes they can come through the hard way, where things fall away from you, where you face challenges. I'm not going to say it's like easy all the time, but things have a way, the universe has a way, your soul has a way of bringing you into alignment with who you are. Some people will go through their life and they will never even be aware of this, and they will spend their whole lifetime at the whim of what they expect, what they feel they should do, what they're chasing for external validation, or maybe external accolades or status. They're chasing things that they think from an ego perspective is what you need to make it, to be successful. But what I want to invite you into today is to kind of strip that away and really tune into you. What is it that you want? What is it that fills you up? Forgetting about what the world presents to us that we should want, as the matrix, as some of you might call it, that we're conditioned into. What is it that your soul craves? Okay. Then I wrote, this is a new season, the autumn equinox, start of the astrological new year. Today marks not just stepping into clarity. It's about what I choose from this clarity. It's where alignment with my soul knowing becomes lived. Okay. So moving forward, and this is what I want for you too, and I wrote it down. I choose, today marks stepping into this clarity, but also about what I choose to do with this clarity, okay? So you can get clear on things, but then it's up to you. What do you choose to do with the clarity? It's where alignment with my soul knowing becomes lived. And that, I feel, is like the magic. It's where you live in alignment with what your soul knowing is. And you actually show up that way, you live that way, you speak that way, you breathe that way in alignment with your soul, and it becomes more effortless in a way of, yes, people might fall away, yes, challenges might arise, yes, you might have endings, but one that we have to go through that stuff, right? And then when we come into that alignment, sometimes we can see, it's like when when they're settling after the storm, where you go, I can breathe, I feel peace, I feel happy, I feel calm, I can just be me and have the freedom to be me. That is where the magic lies, okay? So we're going to go through it the hard way, we're going to go through it the easy way, we're all going to go through it in our own unique way. And I'm going to share with you some triggers today that kind of showed up for me with this message about getting in alignment with what your soul knows you need to live, okay? So what happened is, I sat there this morning, journaled a little bit on that. There's a bit more journaling, which I'll share as we go through. But I sat there and all of a sudden it dawned on me. I sat there and went, oh my gosh, I have had so many triggers this week, and all these triggers started playing through my head, just like I was reliving them. And I looked at, because at the time I was just pissed, but now I look back and I know why they showed up. It's to help give me a little bit more clarity. And I'm going to share some examples. Okay, don't judge me. I'm human. I'm just going to I'm going to spray my truth teller again, just so I speak from the heart, I speak from truth, I speak with compassion and kindness, and no judgment to anyone involved in how these triggers showed up. But I'm just going to say it how it is, okay? So I look back at the week, and one thing that triggered me, a list. I've got the list in front of me, so I remember. But I was triggered by something that a couple of people said on social media, just different things. I had in my inner circle coaching program, this week we're talking around nourishment and around intuitive eating and around like nourishing your body, and like your soul knows what it needs. So all around kind of food and nourishment. And then I jump on social media, and someone who I is a trainer, someone who I respect in a big brand, got on and was just sharing this live around just this video around how intuitive eating is a load of shit. And if you believe that, you're an idiot. And it triggered the fuck out of me, if I'm perfectly honest. And I've sat there and I'm like, this is what was going through my mind. I'm going, part of me, I would never comment, but part of you thinks, they think these things to yourself. And I'm like, maybe that's because you're living in more of an ego world and you're not connected back with your soul enough. Maybe that's because you've been conditioned on how we get taught all these things that we need to do, all of the tracking, all of the calories, all of the, I'm thinking to myself, you can eat, because he was talking about structure and how you need to kind of, to get results in losing weight, like all of the things that we get taught as a trainer. And some of the, you can eat something that's low in calories, but it's artificial. I see people turning to like Diet Pepsi Max or all these things because they're low in calories. I'm like, but they're just not good for you. Get back to what nature presented you with. So all these things were going through my head and I was so triggered by that. Then like the next day, there was another post put up, because I believe, let me take it back. I believe if you're self-aware, I'm not saying intuitive eating is right for everybody. If you have no self-awareness, if you had no connection with yourself, you probably need a little bit more guidance. But I do believe when you get more and more connected with your soul, when you're more and more connected with what is right for you and you listen to your intuition, you're really in line with your intuition, you're self-aware. I definitely believe there is a way that you can eat intuitively. Because if we all did what we felt like, right, we'd all be sitting on the couch eating chocolate. But when you get really connected, there is a way that you can actually do it, right? And so that triggered me. And then I jump on social media another day, and the first post that comes up, it was like from another, it was from Kayla Eat Science, who, I love, and followed her for a long time. And she's kind of like, I'm not a Pilates and matcha girly, and doesn't believe in that, like give me a gym, hers is all like that higher intense kind of heavier weights, all of that, which is fine. But she was like basically having a dig, saying that, and she wasn't having a dig, but that's how I took it at first. She was talking about what aligns for her, right? Which was, I'm not a Pilates matcha girly. Give me the gym and a coffee any day of the week. And again, nothing wrong with that. But it triggered me a bit because I'm thinking, well, I am a bit of a Pilates, not matcha. I do like it, but my go-to would be Pilates, raw cacao, and meditation over smashing my body, high intensity coffee and counting calories and all of that. That just doesn't align. And I sat with that and I kind of thought about that and went, because it made me go, okay, I need to do a post about this in the opposite way. And it kind of made me that little bit triggered. But then I went, hang on, like we're all allowed to believe certain things. She has the courage to put out there how she's feeling. Maybe I need to show up with my socials and be a little bit more, not just wanting to kind of keep the peace all the time and be nice and be liked, and say how I really feel, and the right people will align with me. So it triggered me in a good way to go, girl, maybe you just need to stand up a little bit more and say how you feel, without being scared of judgment or scared of what people might say or that people might not agree with you. So there was a lesson in that as well, but it still triggered me. And then I saw that she had bought this beautiful new home, like this $13 million home down at Mermaid, and it looks stunning. And then when I kind of looked at her, I guess like the outlook, the views, and it was it backs onto canals. So looking into people's homes, like it's a bit busier than where we are. And even like I looked at that and I sat with that and I thought to myself, part of me used to maybe want something like beautiful and big and fancy and luxurious. And where we have ended up in this home, it's a little old home that we're renovating. It's a lot smaller. The view is irreplaceable. So it sparked this conversation with Tom, right? I said to Tom, I said, look at like this home, which is stunning, absolutely stunning. I said, would you prefer to live somewhere like that? Or would you be happy where we are? Because where we are, there is no one behind us but islands, right? And it's an old town, like it's so old and it's so beautiful. I've fallen in love with it. But it's not big, it's not fancy, it's not like the kind of thing that you would flash all over social media. But do you know what? My soul is so aligned here. And I sat, and again, this is triggering me. Or this actually wasn't just a trigger. This was, I guess, the contrast or a bit of a comparison. I sat there and looked at that and thought there was a version of me that actually would have loved something like that. And then I sat with how my soul aligned with this house. Go back to previous episodes, I talk all around that. But where we are, it's a tiny, tiny little town out in the middle of the cane fields, but we have the most incredible, insane view where I walk out on my deck. The house is tiny. And I walk out and all I see is house, grass, sand, water. I can walk out onto the beach and see this expansive diamond sparkles on the water, the islands, the sunrises, and all I hear is birds. There are no cars, there is no noise. And I sit there and I think, this is where my soul is meant to be. I feel so at home here. I feel so at peace here. I love this more than anything, and I would not give this up for anything. And this is a rarity on the Gold Coast. There's like 20 properties here. And it also brought up a trigger that I had been seeing throughout the week was so much, I guess, flashiness or showing off with people in the maybe in the fitness industry or kind of similar industry that I'm in, around showing off like their private jet rides, their fancy, all the stuff, all the luxuries, from a point of it kind of triggered me again a little bit, because I'm thinking, what kind of world are we bringing our kids up in where they are just getting so much bombardment with this is what it takes to be successful? The fancy car, the Rolex watch, the big fancy house, the big following of the numbers on social media. So I started looking at all of that and I thought to myself, my soul, just thought of the contrast. I went, my soul is so happier here, even though this might not appeal to a lot of people, the renos, the tiny little coastal cottage house, I don't care. My soul is so happy here because I feel at peace. I feel calm. I feel we've got this little bit of paradise that is just so different. And I don't care what people think, because we get conditioned that to upgrade, we need to move into a bigger house, a better location, better, fancier car. We get taught that we have to constantly upgrade to what society deems is better. But I want to ask you, what do you feel is best for you? And so all of that was kind of coming up and I guess triggering me and bringing me back into alignment, going, no, like this is where I am meant to be. This is best. And I was having this discussion with Tom and we both agree, like this is just a little piece of paradise that you cannot replace this. It's something so unique and so special. Yeah, it comes with, a lot of extra work that we have to do. It's not as big, it's not as fancy, but we don't care. And I had to kind of sit with that and get, I guess, that bit of clarity, that bit of alignment going into this next version, going, I'm at peace and that is what matters. So that brought up a bit of a trigger in me. It was also a trigger in, I was chatting with Tom around, he has a cryotherapy business, okay? And he sets up cryo saunas. He imports them, he sets them up. If people say, I've brought in a cryo, can you come in and install it? He's one of the rare people that can actually do this. So he's been working in a lot of the gyms and he's been working in like your Total Fusions, your EMFs, bringing in these cryos and setting them up. And we had this funny conversation again last night. We talk openly about a lot of different things. And he was saying, we were just talking about, he said, I cannot believe in some of, this is going to sound really prudish, but we're not. He goes, I cannot believe some of the activewear that girls kind of rock up to in gyms. And because he will kind of work out, we've got our own setup. And so he's not really in gyms all that often besides setting up cryos, right? And he said, some of them look like they're in their bikinis, like they're literally rocking up in their activewear, and we were talking about how, sorry, not the activewear, they look like they're in their swimwear. And we were talking about what happened to those days where you would just not care what you look like. You would just rock up to a workout and you would just train just for the sake of training. You would just work out just for the sake of working out. You didn't care how you looked. You know, back in the days, we're showing our age now, where we would just, you know, you still want to look nice. I still shopped at Lorna Jane, was like the only activewear brand that was kind of trending, apart from your sports shops. That was kind of it. And so, yeah, I'd still like a nice pair of Lorna Jane tights or a nice crop or something like that. But we weren't filming ourselves. We were just there to do our workout, connect with people, or just go in, do our session and go. And I said to him, like, times have changed so much where a lot of trending is, again, coming back to socials. Like we were talking about the essence of just doing things without the need to film, without the need to kind of share, without the need to put it out there, and just doing it because that's what you need in the moment, and not worrying about the angles that you look, not worrying about, you know, how your makeup is. We were just rocking up to workout, and that was it. And so that kind of brought a bit of a stirring up all around kind of, I guess, this social media around what. Social media is amazing. Obviously, I couldn't connect with you without it. We have, you know, so much access, which is incredible, but it's putting so much more pressure. And it really kind of, I guess, honed in on me that need, because we live in, a lot of my listeners who are around my age, we live in this time where we've been exposed to both, right? Where we have lived in that generation where we didn't have our mobile phone on us all the time. You know, like our parents didn't know where we were all the time. We were figuring stuff out. We were, just not having the pressure of social media. It was just more, I shouldn't even say more real, that's not the right word, but we didn't have the pressure of having to look a certain way or compare or compete or fit in, or worrying about telling everything, presenting perfectly for the sake of what we would video. And so we would just show up how we were. So we have experienced both parts of both sides of the coin, right? Where we grew up without it, and then we can see it coming in with our kids. Whereas our kids, when they grow up, that's all they're going to know. So I can kind of see the pros and cons in both. And it just made me, again, all of what we were chatting about, it kind of just triggered me and going, where is the, you know, bring back some of the realness where we can just be ourselves without having to look a certain way, present a certain way, having everything perfect. So that kind of really brought up a bit of a trigger in me as well. I was triggered by, you know, certain people I know accepting collabs just for the sake of, and sharing it all over social media, accepting free stuff just for the sake of having, getting something for free or building their following. And I had someone reach out to me during the week, again, all little things that are just coming up to get a bit of clarity in me, wanting to send me some supplements. And I said, you know, I'm okay to trial them because I checked it out and it looked fine. I said, I'm okay to trial them, but as long as you know, I will not share anything just for the sake of getting free stuff. I would only share it if I found a value in it and I believe that it can offer my community something, then yes, I will share it. But just being really clear with you right at the beginning, that my intention always comes from a place of purity and of service to my community and being authentic to myself. Okay, I'm just going to put that out there before I accept them. You've got to be okay with that. And she wrote back and she said, that's what we want more of. So that kind of, I guess, that little trigger in what I'm seeing with people just accepting everything just for the sake of getting following and just promoting every single little thing that they get sent to them. I guess it aligns me with going, you know what, you just need to show up and be real and authentic and what aligns with you, because you're in a, you know, you've got a brand, you're on social media, you're out there. You have to stay authentic to yourself, because my next stage of what I want to do is looking at growing my brand and looking at growing my community. But all these triggers are showing up for me to go, you know what, Lise, it's okay to be a little bit different, because I've got ideas of what I want to do, and I'm seeing perfectly curated social media studios around, perfect outfits in studios showing up on Instagram, going, that's not what I'm about. But you have to be okay to go on to this next step and expand your brand, to just show up authentically and put the blinkers on and not look at what anyone around you is doing. So all of these triggers I know was showing up because deep down inside, there's a bit of a part of me that is scared of being judged. There's a bit of a part of me that is scared of being different. There's a bit of part of me that is scared of what if it's not what everybody else around is doing. You have to be okay with that, and you have to be okay with just being your real authentic self and showing up that way because of what you're seeing around you in social media. It doesn't matter about the number of followers that you have. What matters is the people that are following you are in alignment with you and that are actually people that you want to serve. So it's like all these triggers were showing up just at the right time before I go into this kind of next stage. So that triggered me. What else? I got a list here. Also, I caught up with a friend who I love and adore, one of my best friends. And we're very different. And we were having a conversation around, we're very different as in, she's beautiful. I love her. Very high achiever, very goal driven, very go, 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 always going and always on to, can't sit still, okay? There was a part of me that used to be like that, 100%. And we were catching up and she was chatting around, we're chatting around retreats. And she was saying how a girl that she knows wants to, has a high successful business and said, maybe I need a retreat. And they were talking about how they don't do retreats because maybe a weekend away together would suit them better rather than a retreat because she can't sit still. And part of me was sitting there listening to what she was saying around retreats, knowing that I love retreats and knowing that it's a place to do the inner work. And part of me was going through my mind was, I know some of your resistance around a retreat is because it's going to force you to do some of the inner work, which maybe you might be avoiding because it is very, very confronting. It might make you sit with yourself. So it's easier to go to somewhere where it's like a girls' weekend away, where you can still have time away, but you're not kind of confronted with some of the inner work. That was what was going through my mind. And I obviously said nothing. We're just different, right? Love and adore her. We're just different in the way that we do things. And then she was asking me about what you're reading and, have you got any book recommendations at the moment? I said, I'm reading Abraham Hicks, and told her a little bit about that. She goes, nope, next, what else is there? And I said, okay, I was reading this business book by Daniel Priestley around building a personal brand and 24 assets. Maybe you might like that. But I sat there and again, I was confronted with the contrast. And sometimes you have to sit with these moments where knowing that you're different and that just accepting people for where they're at and accepting people for who they are, but knowing that you can just be yourself and have the strength and the courage to be yourself and to accept yourself and accept others, and that sometimes you just don't need to say anything at all. So that kind of brought up a little bit of a trigger in me. There was another instance where I've had lots this week. I was driving to work, and when we leave our estate, you can go two different ways. My son was in his car going somewhere. He went one way, and then I went the other way. We come out at a meeting point and he drove past me. There was another car, and then I pulled out behind the other car. As we're driving through the cane fields, I saw this other car sitting behind him, sitting so far up his bum. And Brock, by all means, does not go slow. Sometimes I say to him, mate, like, you need to slow down a bit. So he was doing a bit above the speed limit, and this guy was sitting right up his bum. That intuitive mama bear kind of come out of me. Earmuffs, girls, earmuffs. And my first thought was, you fucking little shit. And at the P plater behind him, Brock's in his big Land Cruiser, this is a smaller car. And I felt myself wanting to go, and I did, if I'm perfectly honest, go and kind of just sit up his bum a little bit to give him a bit of a taste of his own medicine, and feeling like, don't you mess with my son. Like, if he's 19, in those moments, I still see him as, yes, he's a 19-year-old man, but he's my little, beautiful, blonde, curly-haired, brown-eyed boy who I'm here to protect. And I was triggered, so triggered by this little shit that was sitting up his bum that I was like, leave my boy alone, get the fuck out of here, just stay away from him. And Brock's just doing, Brock's just kind of cruising in his cruiser. It didn't kind of trigger him. And I'm like, he's fine. Why is it triggering me? Because we feel like we have to kind of swoop in and protect them. But there was a part of me that had to go, hang on a sec, Lise, like just back off. He's an adult, even though he lives under your roof, he's an adult and he just needs to live his own life. And yes, we're there to protect them, but I had to kind of step off, and I saw myself getting triggered, and I reacted, right? I fully reacted. And I had to kind of look at myself and go, just step back a bit. And I noticed my energy and how it was feeling in the moment. And I was angry. I could feel my chest tightening, my fist kind of clenching. And I noticed a trigger, right? And so I had to kind of back off on that a little bit. So that triggered me. And then there was one last thing which I will share. There's been a lot. I've told you I've had a lot of triggers. I'm doing my Reiki training, and I did some practice on my sister. Tom said to me, why don't you do a Reiki on, he put someone forward in his family. And I was like, no fucking way. Like, nope, they don't get it. And, I really have to put myself out there. And he goes, yeah, but you're doing it on the people that you find are easy. I know that she would really benefit from it. I know she would be open. She would be so fine with it. And again, with my mum's interested in doing it. And I'm reluctant on doing it on my mum because it's something that they're skeptical about, right? So I having to sit with how are they going to take it? Are they going to be open to it? And again, that's coming from a place of ego. Reiki teaches you that you're just a conduit to pour the loving energy from you through into somebody else. And so my ego was getting stirred up in that feeling of, how are they going to react, and how are they going to take it, and are they going to believe it? Are they going to think it's helped them? Am I going to be able to help them? All those things go through my mind. And my husband is my best teacher at times. And he said, you're just doing it on those that you feel comfortable with. You're going to have to do it on everybody at some stage. Why don't you do it on somebody who is maybe a little bit more skeptical? And I'm like, yeah, I'm defending it and going, people come to me because they're going to be open to it, whether they're skeptical or not. I don't know if I want to. And he's like, babe, I think you need to give it a go. So that triggered me. And again, it come back from that fear of being judged, that fear of being different, that fear of how are they going to react? How are they going to see me? Even though I know it's going to be helpful. Again, it's opening myself up to people fully. So that was another trigger. And then I had a last thing. I know I said it was the last thing, but there was one more thing that come to mind. There is a girl that I follow, Georgie Stevenson, who I love, and I think she's doing amazing things and has a big supplement brand, New Harvest. And she had a competition, and she's got a competition at the moment where you buy from her, you can enter a competition to win her Porsche. It is stunning. And I thought to myself, fine, I'm going to go and enter that competition and win the Porsche. How amazing would that be? Then my subconscious kicks in. And that part of me, again, for fear of really putting yourself out there, was going, what would my mum think if I drove a Porsche? What would people think, if I drove a Porsche? Would people think, and I just think it's a beautiful car. I'm not really into labels, or brands of cars. I just think it's a sexy looking car. But then that instant kind of thought kicks in. What would people think? Would people think I was making money from them? I was driving something too fancy. What would people think? And my husband said to me, he goes, who cares if if you win it, that would be great. Then who cares how you got it? You think that people think it's because you made money off them, but people don't know if it come from you winning it. People don't know if it come from family money. People don't know if it's because I gave it to you. People don't know if, people don't know how your finances come about. It's irrelevant. You just have to like it because you like it. And I sat with that fear again of what would people think? Would I be judged? Then when I was driving out to somewhere the other day, it dawned on me that I have a lot of nervous system work around that feeling of being comfortable owning something like that. And I was driving and I thought about it. A thought popped into my head and it said, your dad was judged from that tall poppy syndrome back in the day when you were a kid. So it took me back to a moment when I remember people maybe writing things about him because he, I grew up, he was in the racing industry. He's one of the most successful trainers and he's in the Hall of Fame. And he was very in the public eye. And that opened him up to people criticizing him. And so my fears come back to my childhood, and it also come back to my mum probably being a little bit more guarded and a little bit more protected. They were successful, but she hid behind the scenes a bit for fear of, she didn't want to be judged. She kept to herself a little bit more, and she would get a little bit irritated by what people would say, go into that protective mama bear energy of the family, and my dad as well. But it also come back to that feeling of, sometimes I've seen my mum say things like, if somebody was driving, say like somebody we knew got a fancy Range Rover, and mum's like, oh, she would think it was maybe a little bit of a upmarket, snobbier sort of car. So that has kind of gone into my subconscious belief. So that fear of me having something like that sometimes comes back to, because my mum's humble, she's beautiful, she's kind, she's generous, she gives so much away. And it comes back to, what would my family think? What would people think? For instance, I love Kavari. I love Kavari clothes. In fact, I'm wearing this beautiful gold Kavari top now. If I buy something, I would hide it from my mum. I would not want her to know that the shorts I were wearing were $220 shorts, but I love them. And I think they're so beautiful, and I think the clothes are so beautiful, and I love what the brand stands for, and I love what the founder stands for, and her clothes make me feel amazing. Every time I wear them, they fit good, they're made of beautiful fabric, there's a lot of handmade detail to go into them. But this kind of subconscious thought of, I'd maybe hide it from my mum a little bit because I don't want her to think, why are you spending that much money on clothes? Again, because she's just humble. It's not because they can't. They just were very humble in their upbringing, but dad was in the public eye a lot. So all of that, back to that Porsche, as I'm driving out into the estate, I thought to myself, oh my goodness, my thought around driving a car like that, even though I love it, even though I think the color's beautiful, the interior's beautiful, I would totally love to drive a car like that. My feeling would be, I would not feel safe driving a car like that in my subconscious nervous system, my subconscious mind, because what would I open myself up to? Would people think I was snobby? Would people judge me? Would people criticize me? So that I realized my nervous system did not feel safe in the having of it, based on my subconscious beliefs, based on how I've, things that have played out in my past. And I took this big deep breath and I thought about it as I've reflected on that, going, oh my goodness, I'm actually blocking myself from winning it because of that subconscious belief, or having something like that come into, whether it was that or whether it was another nice car. My subconscious belief would be, would I open myself up to judgment, and could I handle that judgment? I would hate it. So I had to do a lot of work around that. As I've had those thoughts, I'm driving out, I see my little bluebird up, and I haven't seen it for ages, see my little bluebird up on the power lines. As I'm driving out through the cane fields, next thing, a Porsche comes past me in the opposite direction, like this signs from the universe, like, Lise, you've got it. Like, you've got it, you've understood it. Now we need to do some work around that. So that's what I want to go into next, okay? Is how these triggers can be healing for you by the way they're showing up. So I realized in all of these things that had been triggering me, for me to go into that next level version, I looked at all those people, all those situations that I shared with you. Part of me admired them for having the courage to just be themselves, to just show up authentically and be themselves, having the courage to say what they think, having the courage to be who they are. It was my limiting beliefs and my fears around being judged, around being scared of being different, around what would people think, that if I want to grow and I want to level up, if I feel like that, my nervous system will be scared of that. It will block me from moving forward. It will block me from expanding my brand. It will block me because I have a fear of, if I grow bigger, I'm opening myself up for judgment. So then I had to, let me take you through some of the steps in how I work through this, okay? And a lot of it goes back to this angels framework, which is, the first thing is awareness. I was aware of all of this. I was aware of how I was thinking. I was aware of what the triggers were. I was aware of how I was feeling. Then I did the next thing. I went into nourishment. I went, okay, I'm going to be kind to myself. I sat down. We had a women's circle this week as well, okay? So I was exhausted. I had a big week. I had a lot of 3:30 starts this week, and up till like some nights I was up till 11 and then back up at 3:30. I was tired. After women's circle, I had to go to work early the next day. And then I come home and I went, you know what? I just need a rest. I'm so exhausted. I went and had a sleep. I'm not going to set my alarm. I laid down. I was around 12 o'clock in the day, and then I woke up and it was almost 4:30 in the afternoon. I was like, holy shit. But I went, no, I needed that, right? So I had a rest. Then what I did the next day, I didn't have to go to the studio. I woke up, watched the sunrise. No, there was no sunrise. It was cloudy. But anyway, I had my raw cacao and I just had a bit of a peaceful morning. And that day I collected all the rose petals from Women's Circle, picked them all up in a bag. I took them down to the jetty and I sat down there. Hang on, let me take you back a step. I forgot one step. I Reiki'd myself that morning. That's right. I sat there and I did a lot of Reiki healing to myself around I am safe in the having of all the things that I wanted to have. I am safe to be myself. I am safe to accept myself. I accept other people. And I did a lot of energy healing around because I could feel, I was sitting there noticing where would these things show up in my body. I would feel maybe, because I had a massive headache as well. And I could feel my head spiraling. I could feel like a tightening in my chest. I could feel a bit of a feeling in my stomach of like clenching and feeling like a bit of a knot in my stomach. Of how would it be if I say had the Porsche, and I'm not saying I want a Porsche, okay? I'm just using this as a really big example of going, I'm safe in the having of what I want. So I had to breathe, and I sat there breathing in safety, breathing in, I can be who I want to be. If people judge, that's on them. It is not on me. And so I did a lot of breath work. I did a lot of meditation that morning. Then I collected my rose petals. I went down the jetty. I sat down there with Kira, my golden retriever, and I called in, this is my next step, guidance. I did call in guidance when I was doing my Reiki, and I called it in again when I was down at the jetty. And my Ulpa loved nice things. He had a beautiful Lexus. He had like a nice, he would wear $10,000 watches. And my mum would sometimes say, why does Ulpa need that? Not in a bad way, but that was all going through my mind, right? So I called in my guides, my spirit team. I called in Ulpa. He loved luxury things. There's nothing wrong with that, okay? I called in my grandmother who had the energy of my mother, the energy of my grandmother who's still alive. One's passed, one's alive. And my great-grandmothers who just were so beautiful and loving and kind and generous. I called in that feminine energy. I called in the energy of my Ulpa who liked luxury things, but also he was a go-getter. He built a brand. He just put himself out there and he was who he was. So I called in that energy from my Ulpa. I called in and I realized through a lot of subconscious blocks and a lot of past, one of my other granddads had been gone through a money problem with bankruptcy with a business that failed. And so I can see how a lot of that past conditioning went through to my mum and this feeling of protecting money because of what they went through. So I had both extremes on both families. So I called in that energy from my granddad and my energy from my higher guides. And I sat down there in the jetty, and as I was scatting my rose petals by the water, I was just thinking of what I need to let go of this thought. I need to let go of this feeling. I need to let go of self-judgment. I need to let go of the judgment from the triggers that have come up. All those things. I was calling in the support of my guides. Please help me with this. Please help me embody these new leadership abilities. If I want to grow as a founder in a brand, that's why I love Kiki from Kavari. I follow her guidance of what she shares as a founder. And I love that. For me to level up in my brand and as a founder, I need to let go of some things and I need to embody some qualities. Please help me level up and please help me let go. So as I'm scattering my rose petals, I'm thinking about the things I need to let go of. I'm calling in guidance for all of my past ancestors to please help me what I need to bring in for this new version of me to level up. And I actually cried. I felt emotional. I felt empowered. It was just a really powerful exercise that help me let go. So that's something you can do. I was out in nature, I was by the water, I put my feet in the water after that. I grounded and I just said, please just help me like release all of these things that I've been carrying, my past ancestral blocks, my current blocks. Please help me let go. And I visualized it all leaving my body, spilling out of my feet into the salt water. And salt water is an energetic cleanse. I come up, I grounded my feet in the sand, grounded my feet in the grass, and it just felt really beautiful. It was emotional, absolutely emotional. And that afternoon, there were 2 rainbows. We had rain. I stood out in the rain at times. I had a really nourishing, slow day. And I stood out in the rain, under the rainbows, feeling the rain. And so that is how you can nourish yourself. You can connect in guidance, but also in my angels framework. A is awareness, N is nourishment, G is guidance, asking for your guides and source and help. I got guidance from my oracle cards. And E, your energy. I noticed my energy because what you're vibrating is what you attract in. If I don't shift my vibration, if I don't raise my vibration to that next level version of me, I'm going to continue playing out the same. So I understood my energy and how I was showing up. And then I worked on recalibrating my nervous system so that I can then rewire and bring in this next version. So I was aware of my energy and releasing it and calling in this new energy. So that was E. L was love. I gave myself so much self-love that day. I come from a place of love. I looked at all my triggers with love. I looked at myself through the eyes of love and that feminine energy of intuition. I thanked myself for my intuition that was coming through and showing me these things for me to move forward. And then the last step of the process is S. Surrender. I just surrendered to whatever's meant to be will be. Surrendered to what's shown up for me was what I meant to see on my journey, and just surrendering into just God, source, universe, however my next path is meant to unfold is fine. Okay. Just help me along the way. So I really surrendered into just letting go of control, letting go of outcomes, letting go of the way things are meant to be and going, you know what, however my brand evolves, however I grow and evolve, it's meant to be for my highest good. So that's kind of the framework that I use to help me through processes like this. When you have triggers, accepting that, you know, I had to accept it's okay to put myself out there, knowing when to say nothing and when to say something. But I use the tools of my journal. I poured it. Sometimes we don't need to say anything. There were instances that I went through. Yes, I reacted. Yes, I got triggered. Yes, I got angry. Then I use these spiritual tools to help me through this. I reset my nervous system through embodying new thoughts and new beliefs and seeing myself when I was down on the jetty. I saw myself as the leader and the business owner that I want to be, the woman that I want to be, the authentic version of me that just shows up and speaks her truth. I felt and I experienced and I felt all of that. So I reset my nervous system. I rewired my nervous system. I journaled, I grounded, I, used energy healing through Reiki, I used meditation, all of those things. I had a sleep. I had a rest. I was so tired. I had a rest and I ate really good foods. I just craved really nourishing foods. And that's what I allowed myself to do. And I spent time with my loved ones, which was really, really nice as well. So that's kind of, I guess, the how. When things trigger you, understand that your triggers are coming up from a place of healing. Your triggers are coming up to give you clarity. It's okay to be different. It's okay to be yourself, because when you are your real authentic self, when you are more aligned with your soul, that is when the universe is going to give you maybe little challenges, maybe little tests, maybe little triggers to go, what is it that you really want? What is the contrast? So what I've outlined today, hopefully helps you work through that process and look at yourself and look at your inner world as well as your exterior world. Everything starts from within. This is the inner work. There's no big magic, way of doing the inner work. It's in all these things that I share with you in my podcast. These are all little examples of how to do the inner work. And I'll just finish with what I pulled in my card this morning, this beautiful Divine Masters deck, Lady Venus. And this card is all around call to action. I wrote a little bit about it. It says a call to action. It's a power surge. The card said you're on an earth mission. For hundreds and thousands of years, those on earth have prayed for a better way. You were born in response to those prayers. Everything you've faced, overcome, and have healed from is in preparation for leaving a legacy. You are someone who will make great change. If you feel you are constantly helping, healing, and guiding others, yes, all the time, That's because it is a calling deep within your soul. Lady Venus is here to now give you a surge of power and inspiration to take this work further. As I'm reading this card, my little blue kingfisher, I could hear him on the jetty and one of the neighbors' jetties chirping so loudly. And I thought to myself, I read this card. This is another example, right? I'm reading this card. This card is telling me you're on a mission. Like, follow your soul's calling, follow that deep nudge within your soul to go for it. So I read something like that. What happens? It shifts my mindset. It gives me that belief in myself and my work and what I'm doing. Another powerful tool, because if I listen to my head all the time, I would be scared sometimes and freeze. I listen to that. It's like it gives you this little pep talk. It gives you this inspiration, this motivation to go, Lise, go for it. Keep going. You're on the right track. And that is another spiritual tool that can help you, and why I encourage you to use these things, because they're going to help you on your steps, angels. They're going to help you on your path. They're going to help get you in alignment with your soul, get you in alignment with your vision, help give you clarity on your vision, and step into what it is, your potential and your purpose and what you're meant to do, but just help you live a happier life, right? Help you live in a life where you can just be yourself, have the freedom to be yourself, and let go of what people think. So I'm going to wrap that up, because I know I've had a lot of I've spilled a lot today. I hope that has helped. Have a beautiful, beautiful day. I will leave that with you, my friends, and see you in the next episode. So much love to you as always. Bye.